So let me quickly set up how we got here today. I think we can all agree that the business climate in downtown Wisconsin Dells has changed fairly dramatically within the past 10 to 20 years. And we feel that anything short of a concerted effort by the entire community to grow and development will likely result in a further decline. So because of our familiarity with Roger Brooks, and you may recall that he was the gentleman that came to Wisconsin Dells 10 years ago to help us and inspire us to become the water park capital of the world, we asked him to come to the Dells in April of 2013 to hold a workshop on downtown recruitment and development, and he did that. After the workshop, we were so impressed and inspired with the potential of what downtown could become that we requested that Roger prepare a full business and tourism development plan. So he began that effort in August of last year, and for the past 12 months, Roger, his team in Seattle, and the local brand leadership team have been putting together the presentation and the report that you will see today. It is our hope that you will listen to Roger's presentation with an open mind to the possibilities of what downtown Wisconsin Dells can become, and that you will leave both inspired and committed to being part of making it happen. Ladies and gentlemen, Roger Brooks.
Thank you. How is everyone? Doing okay? It's great to be back. Always love coming to Wisconsin Dells. I've been here in every time of year and about every kind of weather. And so I'm just going to dig right in of what we've been doing over the past year. And this is about making downtown Wisconsin Dells a fantastic destination in itself that people want to come to. Just to give you some background, I started my career in the concert industry, so I'm familiar with halls like this. But when we started working in the tourism industry, the first 10 years, we did resort development. We did Whistler Resort in British Columbia. We did Harbor Town and Hilton Head Island, South Carolina. We did Copper Mountain Resort, Colorado. And so we came from the private sector, and every one of these resorts was built around a downtown, a village. And then what we did is then we started working for cities, and we've worked in 1,000 cities in 45 states, every Canadian province, and in Western Europe. So we've been around for a while. And one thing we found from the tourism industry was that downtowns are critical to making tourism work. So what we did is we actually went out there and did a 5-year research project where we went out and surveyed 2,000 towns, and out of those 2,000 towns, we found the 400 most successful downtowns in the United States, Canada. So not in Europe, but just in the North America. And some of these were towns of 1,000 people. Some of them were districts in bigger cities. But we took the 400 of the most successful of those, and we found the 20 most common ingredients that led to their success. And what we did is, one thing we found is thinking that beautification streetscapes will save or make a downtown work. And that's not true. It is part of the equation, but it's not everything. And so that is now 50% of the work we do is downtown work, and the other 50% is tourism. And by the way, they should be joined at the hip. And I'm going to show you why. So when we started this project a year ago, it was about how do we brand downtown? Like Romy said, you are the water park capital of the world. You own it. And I speak at about 100 events a year. And what's interesting is if I'm in western Iowa, if I'm down in Springfield, Missouri, if I'm in all those places outside of your target market, your first primary market, and I mention the word Wisconsin Dells, they all know that you're the water park capital of the world. That is a brand, and it's a great brand, and it's a powerful brand. So I want to talk about why we're doing this. And the very first thing on the list was to increase visitor spending in Wisconsin Dells and Lake Delton, because we think downtown Wisconsin Dells is also Lake Delton's downtown. And for visitors, you know what, they don't see you. Nobody says, well, this year we're going to plan our vacation in Lake Delton, and next year we're going to go to Wisconsin Dells. They see you as one destination. And particularly October through March, Sunday through Thursday, how do you fill that gap? And that's what this is really about. That's number one. You know what's really interesting is the average visitor is active 14 hours a day. So any tourism, that's their time that they're active. And out of that, they spend just 4 to 6 hours with the primary activity that draws them. So how many hours can they spend in a water park before they say, we need a break, we need to go do something else? 4 to 6 hours. Even Branson, Missouri, town of 6,500 people that hosts 7.5 million visitors a year. The average visitor goes to 2 shows a day. They have 49 music theaters. 2 shows a day, 4 hours. So we spend 4 to 6, and then we're looking for 8 to 10 hours of other activities to do. And so that is really critical. And number one, there you go. Number one on their list is shopping, dining, and entertainment in a pedestrian-friendly setting. That is the number one activity of visitors in the world. It's not why we come. We come for Noah's Park or Kalahari or the many water parks you have or your other attractions, the ducks, all those different things. But then the number one activity, what do? Shopping, dining, and entertainment in a pedestrian-friendly setting. And by the way, that is where 80% of all non-lodging visitor spending takes place. 80% of non-lodging is shopping, dining, and entertainment in a pedestrian-friendly setting. Why do you think Tanger has outlet malls in Wisconsin Dells? Why do you think Disney put Downtown Disney outside each of its parks? For one reason, and that's to get that 80%. And that, you're not reaching your potential at all. And that's what's changed everything. So that's number one. Number two, we want you to become more of a year-round destination, and I'm sure you want that too. And you know what? If you want conferences and conventions, which you're getting a lot of, they go to places where there are things to do after 6 o'clock. Because I'm going to give you one statistic right now, is that 70% of all consumer spending takes place after 6 o'clock p.m. Are you open? So conferences and conventions go to places where there's something to do at the end of the day. And remember, we're talking Sunday through Thursday, October through March, when a lot of your water parks aren't open, the outdoor ones particularly. And then the next thing you need to know is that baby boomers, their peak months for travel are April, May, September, and October. By the way, I want to talk about boomers for a second. Baby boomers, the oldest ones, turned 70 this year. So, actually, they'll turn 69 this year. The youngest ones are only 50, so this is no flash in the pan. It's going to be 15 years before the youngest ones get to 65. Here's the big trend that you need to be aware of. Multi-generational travel. For the first time in U.S. history, grandparents, the boomers, feel we weren't there for our kids, but by God, we're going to be there for our grandkids. They are traveling to places like Wisconsin Dells. But here's the deal you need to know about boomers, is that they will stay in a different place than their kids and grandkids. So the boomers might say, well, you know what, we're going to stay at the Hilton Garden Inn, or we might stay at Wilderness, and we'll let the kids go stay at Kalahari or Great Wolf or one of the other places. But that is a huge, fast-growing trend that you be aware of. And by the way, the boomers account for 80% of all leisure and business travel. But another statistic that you need to know is that they will pay more for quality. And they will take their kids and grandkids to a place that has higher quality amenities, shopping, dining, and those kinds of things. And so number 3 was to upscale the tourism spending, attracting a more affluent audience. That means you need to add some cultural depth. You know what? We worked in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. Gatlinburg, Tennessee hosts 13 million visitors a year because they go into Great Smoky Mountains National Park. It's the most visited national park, 5 times more than Yellowstone or any other place. But they came to me and said, well, Roger, we're really struggling because we used to have all these quality restaurants downtown, art galleries downtown, and now they're full of t-shirt shops and souvenirs, and it's kind of gotten kind of cheesy. We have tattoo parlors, and sound familiar? And I said, you know what? It's not the fault of the retailers, it's who you're bringing to Gatlinburg. Because they became a coupon destination where price was what they were competing on. And so you know what? Over the last few years, they've been trying to change it back. They have this arts trail. It's called the Community Arts Trail. They're going to rename it the Great Smoky Mountains Art Trail. It's an 8-mile trail. It's got 45 artisans. They're bringing those artisans back into downtown. They're starting to get rid of the coupon mentality. And all of a sudden, over just 3 years, it's starting to change back. They're getting a more affluent visitor. They're getting their shoulder seasons are starting to work. Their restaurants are doing better. Everything is starting to turn around. Because you know what? If you want to fix downtown, if you think it needs fixing, it's not the fault of some of your shops. It may be the fault of who you're bringing into Wisconsin Dells. And if you want the boomers, and you want those kids and grandkids, there's where you need to go. And here's the other statistic for you, for boomers. The top 15% of accommodations in terms of quality command 85% of the business with this group. So just putting window dressing on the older mom and pop hotels is not going to cater to this group. You know what's happened is with places like Gatlinburg, Coney Island, I named some more, Wisconsin Dells. What happened is you're really huge and big in the late 60s, the 70s, and times have changed. It's changed. You know what? Even the millennial, the kids of the baby boomers, they grew up in an entitled, so when they go out and they buy new cars, Romy just told me last night, she goes, even my daughter says, oh yeah, I want to go out and buy a Nissan, I can't remember which one it was, one of their more upscale vehicles. So even the younger generation is looking for something a little more upscale. And so that's another thing, but that's just a FYI that you understand that boomers will pay more for quality. Okay? And then number 4, to help the Dells get unstuck. I want to tell you a little story. Yesterday, I flew out from Phoenix. I was on the plane. There's a guy sitting right next to me that works for U.S. Airways. And I asked him where he's going. He goes, well, I'm going back to visit my family. We're from Rockford, Illinois, and so I'm going back there. And he said, where are you going? I said, I'm going to Wisconsin Dells. Have you heard of it? He goes, who hasn't? I went right on. Who hasn't? And I said, so do you ever go there? Do you ever take your kids there? He says, well, you know what? When I was growing up, we went there all the time. And he said, yes, I've taken my kids there, but I don't go there as much now. And I said, why? And he says, because it's a time warp. When you go there, it looks just like it did in 1973. And he says, they got to get unstuck. And so it was weird to hear somebody, and I had this presentation already done. And it was so strange to hear somebody say, yeah, it's a time warp back into the 70s. And so that's what you have to do. So that's part of what this is about. And then here's the next thing, is women account for 80% of all consumer spending. Go ahead. Waiting for the guys. Usually there's some guy in the audience that goes, that's all? And so what you have to understand is women want to go into a place they feel safe, they feel comfortable, that has beautification, that's attractive, and that's it. And by the way, they make 70% of the decisions when it comes to travel. So that's who you have to cater to. So then number 5, to help the property owners and businesses downtown become more sustainable and more successful. When we surveyed those 400 towns, one of the litmus tests is they had to be getting more than $1.50 per square foot per month to even qualify. That was 10 years ago. That's $18 a square foot per year, lease agreements. And you know what? A lot of these towns are getting $80 and $85 a square foot per year, and the merchants are willing to pay for it because they're doing 20 times the business than they're doing in the Dells. There's no reason why you can't do that. And then number 6, to make downtown a standalone destination. What's really cool is one of the first projects I worked on was Jackson, Wyoming. You know it as Jackson Hole, which is actually the ski area. But Jackson, Wyoming, town of 10,000. That's it. By the way, the population within a 150-mile radius is 180,000. But you know what our goal was? And by the way, the goal was to make Jackson Hole a standalone destination. Just so you know, their focus was Western art. This is the home of Western art, the home of Western living. You know, the pine pole furnishings, the sheepskin rugs, the wood-framed photographs of the Grand Tetons, everything very Western living. And so we reorchestrated the business mix in their downtown. I mean, we worked with the property owners. We went through that whole process. Guess what? Jackson, the most asked question at West Yellowstone, Montana, the entrance to Yellowstone and Grand Teton, basically Yellowstone, the most asked question is, which is the quickest way to get to Jackson Hole? And they say, well, the quickest way is to go down Highway 26 in Idaho and jump over the Teton Pass. Then they will ask the next question. Well, can I just go in and get my picture taken at Old Faithful and then come back out? Jackson, Wyoming is now a bigger attraction than both Yellowstone and Grand Teton National Park. Wouldn't it be great if people came to Wisconsin Dells because the downtown is so great? And remember, I'm talking October through March, Sunday through Thursday, primarily. Wouldn't it be great if you could add that element to where your downtown becomes an attraction as well? That people come here just because it's so great. And then number 7, to make downtown a place local residents want to spend more time in. You know what's funny about tourism? If you don't hang out in your own town, neither do visitors. They go where you go. And if you're going to Madison or Baraboo or somewhere else, guess what? So are they. That's what you have to understand. And then the first thing we had to figure out is, well, so if we're going to do this for Wisconsin Dells, we got to figure out, what do you want downtown to be known for? Is it going to be nightlife? Is it going to be entertainment? Is it going to be microbrews in the bar scene? Is it going to be all about kids and family? Is it going to be about dining? What's downtown going to be about? And that's what brought us into this whole branding thing. And there's 2 kinds of brands. There's the feel-good brand that says, oh, Wisconsin Dells, it's a great place to come visit. And then there's the economic development brand. What is going to bring more cash into Wisconsin Dells? And what's going to make it more year-round? And that is the focus of this whole effort that we've been working on for a year. Because the whole idea is to import more cash than you export, and you do that in spades. Your tourism budget is bigger than 30 state tourism budgets. So you do bring it in, but what about those shoulder seasons? How do you fill those? And that's what this is all about. This is balance of trade. And so, you know, I was telling Romy last night, we had dinner, and I said, you know what I want to get a picture of? When I flew into Milwaukee and I started driving out, and you know where it turns into, 39, 94, 90? The freeway is like 4 lanes wide, and there's a big green, this is before you get to Madison. There's a big, huge green sign over the freeway. And it has arrows pointing in all the lanes, and it has 2 words on it, Wisconsin Dells. Name a place in the United States in 2 cities, 2 communities of 6,000 people that get that kind of mileage, that kind of signage 100 miles away. Oh my gosh. You have what every town wants. We just got to stretch it out. So this whole branding thing, here's the 10 things you need to know and do. First of all, branding is the art of separating yourself from everyone else. And you've done that as the water park capital of the world. And by the way, does that mean that all you have is water parks? Absolutely not. But it's the one thing that puts you on the map that'll bring people the furthest. It's that one signature thing. So here's another, downtowns need to stand for something just like you do as a community, but downtown's probably not going to be about water parks. It's going to be about that complementary activity where we do our shopping, dining, and entertainment. And then number 2, a brand is a perception. It's what people think of you. And what they'll do is they'll say, oh yeah, I know Wisconsin Dells, it's the water park capital of the world, but it's stuck in the 70s. That's what I've been hearing. That's what we heard when we went around and asked people. We heard it in the surveys. And by the way, how perceptions, how they create a brand is number one, the visual cues. It's those 1960s mom and pop hotels, some of the old signs that you have, some of the, even downtown. I mean, it's visual cues. Is it fair? No. But that's what we do. We judge a book by the cover. The people and the attitudes. And then word of mouth. And these days, social media. I mean, social media is instant. The whole rebranding process that used to take 20 years now takes 3 because of social media. It's word of mouth. And so number 3, logos and slogans are not brands. So we didn't even worry about creating a new logo for downtown. I mean, have you ever gone anywhere? Have you ever said, man, let's head up to Bayfield. They have a really cool logo. Or have you ever said, I really don't want to go down to Lake Geneva because I think their logo sucks. By the way, I have no idea what their logo looks like. But you know what? At the end of the day, that's not what this is about. There you go. Brand identities make up 2% of a brand. They get 98% of the political attention. And then number 4, you never use focus groups. So Romy introduced our brand leadership team that's sitting right over there. They were not a focus group. They were the ones to weigh in. Can we make this happen? Can we do this? How do we do it? Where do we get the money? What should we do here? So we did not use focus groups. Because you know what? You'll end up with a list. If we went and asked everybody, what should we do to fix downtown, which we did ask, and I'm going to tell you about that in a minute. You know what? We'd end up with a project that's so expensive we'd never be able to afford to do it. And then number 5, brands evoke emotion. Wow, let's go downtown. We hear it's really fabulous. Wouldn't that be great? It's a feeling that people have about you. And then number 6, all successful brands are built on product, not marketing, and that's what I'm going to spend most time talking about. Because there you go. The best brands are built on product, not marketing. Branson in those 49 music theaters. Hershey and chocolate. I mean, Napa Valley and wine, you name it. There you go. By the way, these are all private sector. Napa Valley and the wines. Branson and music theater. Wisconsin Dells and water parks. Silicon Valley and high tech. Hershey, Pennsylvania, and chocolate. I mean, Nashville country music. These are all built on private sector development. And the same needs to happen downtown with some public help. And then number 7, you never roll out a brand until you can deliver on the promise. So when 10 years ago you said, well, you should be the water park capital of the world, great. At the time you had Noah's Ark and you had some of the other ones. And now you had even more when Kalahari came, and so you were ready to roll it out. And then number 8, you cannot do branding by public consent. We did ask, but feasibility is where we came up with what you're going to see today. There you go. So whatever you want downtown to be known for, some people are going to say, well, I think it should be an Old West theme. Some people might say it should be a Bavarian theme. Some people might say, well, it should be a dining scene. I mean, so what we did is we built it on feasibility. Or you end up with something you can't afford. I love this quote. A byproduct of brands for the people is the committee that compromises and kills a potential brand home run. This is why you never see statues of committees in public parks. You see brave leaders. So if we would have done this as a public project, here's what we would have got. This is the typical public project, right? There's enthusiasm. Oh, that Roger Brooks guy came into town. We're really pumped about making downtown an outstanding destination. And then, there's some planning, which we've been doing. And then there'll be disillusionment as some people come out and say, well, I don't agree with that. I think it should have been something else. Now, that probably never happened in Wisconsin Dells, would it? Didn't think so. And then there's fear and panic as people come out because you know what? The blogs are going to hit tomorrow. And some people say, well, I think that's a bad idea. I think that's going away from who we should be. I think, it's going to happen. I can tell you. And search for the guilty, punishment of the innocent, and finally, praise and honors for the non-participants. Did I get that about right? That's what you call branding by public consent. And then number 9, you build your downtown brand on feasibility, not just local sentiment. So we've figured out what could we do that will give us the biggest bang on the investment. and create a return on that investment. And then finally, you build your brand through PR, advertising used to maintain your ownership position. That is the future. And by the way, there's only 3 killers of this whole downtown branding effort. Number 1 is local politics, and typically it's worse with membership organizations than it is with elected officials. By the way, you know why you don't do branding by public consent? Your elected officials were elected to be all things to all people. Brands can't be. They can't be. And then lack of champions, people willing to push it forward. And then number 3, lack of money, both private and public. By the way, the reason lack of champions is in yellow there, because if you have the right champions in place, they will get through the politics and they will make it happen. They will find the money. Though where there's a will, there's a way. There's never a fourth one. That's the only 3 killers of this. And so over this year, we've been going through this process. It's a 13-step process that we developed after working in about 1,000 communities. I would tell people, boy, I always feel sorry for those first 200 or 300 we worked with, because we didn't know what would make it work. So we came up with this process, and so far this process has 100% success rate. And we've been using it for the last 6 years. 100% so far. So here's the 13 steps. We started with a brand development committee. And these are the team that were on the committee. And they're sitting right over here. I think most of them, not all of them, are right there. This is our group. If you notice, it is stacked with private sector people, because brands need to start with grassroots effort up. So you see downtown. I mean, even Romy and the CVB, and even Tom is from private sector. You know what? Because even a VCB, a Visitor and Convention Bureau, is about private sector. And so it is stacked. Other than Nancy and Mayor, this is pretty much all private sector. So we put that together. They've been working on this thing for a year. And then we did education and outreach. If you remember, about a year ago, we did put an online survey out there, and 670 people weighed in. And it was just all essay. It wasn't like there was all predetermined multiple choice. We let people just speak their mind. Some of it was hilarious. Some of it was downright mean. Some of it was really great. And so we interviewed, we talked to people. I had phone calls, emails, you name it, but we did hear. Remember I said you can't do branding with public consent? You still have to ask, because your input is incredibly important. In a nutshell, what we heard, and it's really a thick document, we heard this from a lot of people, and these are not in any particular order, but people said downtown continues to deteriorate. That was a common thread that we saw. We need more quality shops downtown. We heard that really clear. And then many of the motels are cheesy, upgrades and superficial. When I was on the plane with this guy, he said, you know what? He says, I see some of these motels, and I don't mean to pick on anybody, and he said, they think that painting in blue and white is going to make us think differently. And so those are some of the challenges that you have with some of these things, that some of them are kind of stuck in the 60s. They need those upgrades. They need to look more modern. And it starts with signs. But this is just what we heard from you. Downtown needs a focus. Another thing we heard is, here it is here, something to do during the evening hours. Remember I said about conferences, conventions, and the spending? We would like to see the sports played up even more. It's something we heard. Another common thread was parking issues, access signage, more options. You know, I've been in downtown Wisconsin Dells last August and this August, and you know what? I've never had a problem finding parking. Part of the challenge is it's spread all over. But that was an issue that we knew we needed to address somehow. And then more robust off-season. What do we do the other 8 months of the year to make it more robust? Because you have a lot of merchants that just hang on by their teeth for 8 months of the year, and they hope they can make enough during spring breaks and this time of year, maybe the holidays. And then your best assets we saw were the water park, scenery, attractions, family friendly. Because we did ask that too. And then finally, we need more places like the High Rock Cafe. You know, they're pretty busy. Need more places like that. And so they do great business. And it was interesting that they singled that one out. They singled out a couple other shops too. But that's what people said. So the next thing we did after we went through all of that is, who the heck are we trying to attract downtown? And you know, here's the very first thing. Is, you know what, you're so focused on bringing people from Minneapolis, Chicago, and from all, Milwaukee, the big metropolitan areas. What about the 50,000 people that live within 20 miles of Wisconsin Dells? How do you get people here? October through March, Sunday through Thursday. Wouldn't it be great if the local audience within just a 20-mile radius hung out in here instead of Madison or somewhere else? That said, let's go downtown Dells tonight after work. Wouldn't it be cool if they did that? So sometimes, you know what? We're not going to get those kids and family during the middle of the school season on a rainy day in October, probably. And so why don't we start with that for downtown? That's a whole new market that you don't really cater to a whole lot right now. And then look at 30-mile radius. It goes out to 160,000 people. Let's start with that group. Let's make downtown so great that those people will come here after working on weekends during the shoulder seasons. Wouldn't that be great? You know what? If you could get the people within 10 miles to hang out here more, your downtown would be thriving. And then visitors passing through the area. And then, of course, the visitors that you already have coming. What do we do to get them to come downtown and spend a little bit of time and money there? And then new visitors that will come because of downtown. It might be the boomer that said, you know what, you're not going to see us out there on some of these water slides and stuff. But you know what, we want to come here because you got great restaurants, you got great shops. Wouldn't that be cool? Open up a new market. And then demographic is families, of course. And then number 2 is multi-generational visitors. Huge, huge, fastest growing trend. One more thing about this multi-generational thing. You know what? The boomers had their kids in their 20s. The millennials are having their kids in their 30s. And they are right now, that millennial generation, by the way, there's 83 million baby boomers in the United States. There's 79 million millennials. It's the next big wave. But there's been a little bit, and that millennial generation, their kids are almost into T-ball age. You're going to see your sports tourism start to go up. You're going to see even your water park tourism start to go up as the next wave, their kids come in there. But there's been a little bit of gap because they're having their kids a little later in life. But this whole multi-generational thing is just now kicking into high gear. And like I said before, the grandparents want to stay in separate places from their kids and grandkids. They don't mind spending the day with them, but then they want their downtime. And they want more upscale. And conventions, conferences, trade shows, business retreats, you're getting them, you want them even more. What do they do when they're done at the end of the day, when the conference is over at 5 o'clock? Where do these people go? Where do they spend the money? Nobody wants to just go back in their hotel room and just twiddle their thumbs watching TV because there's nothing to do in the Dells. And then boomers, they're in their peak earning years. They have more leisure time available. They will travel in those shoulder seasons. And then we're looking for people that are looking for shoulder season activities. That's our focus. And then more upmarket income earners. Wouldn't that be great? So we did that. Then number 4, we compiled what we heard. And here's, I love this. Always do what you're afraid to do. That was Ralph Waldo Emerson. And so the final brand candidates for downtown was, number 1, can we make it an entertainment district? Or should it be the place to celebrate? This is where people in Wisconsin, this is where Wisconsin comes to celebrate. I don't care whether it's family reunions or weddings or anniversaries or university graduations or retirement, whatever it is, this is the place to celebrate. And then number 3 was we want to have great shopping and dining district. That was our 3 candidates. We thought, is there a way we could kind of combine these? Why not? And so that's what we were saddled with. So then what we did is we figured, okay, we're going to make this downtown a great place to celebrate. It's a third place. It's a place we come to hang out. And so then we thought, well, we need to take our brand development committee over here and turn them into brand leaders. Who's going to lead this effort? And you know what? This is our same group, but we want to add to it. And so if any of you want to be part of this, you're going to let me know. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed people can change the world. It indeed is the only thing that ever has. That was Margaret Mead. And then I love this one. When odds are 1 in a million, be that one. Because what we're going to give you today is, what I'm going to show you here in a minute, is pretty heavy. It's pretty far-reaching, but it can work. Here is a brand leader. They must be 100% enthusiastic behind the brand. Wow, that is so cool. I want to be part of it. If you say, you know, I saw that presentation with that Brooks guy, and I think it's kind of cool. I think we could probably live with that. You're not on the team. We want gung-ho. And then number 2, they must be doers, not directors. They're going to go out there and talk to the city. They're going to talk to Kiwanis. They're going to talk to Rotary. They're going to talk to your resorts. They're going to talk to everybody to sell this, how important downtown can be. They need to be willing to take some hits, because I'm going to tell you, as soon as this hits the press, not everybody's going to agree. They will be brand cops. They're the ones that are going to make it and push it through. And you know, more than half should have a vested interest in the brand, meaning they should own businesses or own properties in downtown. They have a vested interest there. And then they are the voice of the brand. They're good speakers. They got to go sell this to Wisconsin Tourism, to the Department of Transportation for making changes downtown. They cannot be politically divisive in the community. They can be elected officials, absolutely. But we don't want people that are really divisive. And they will act as a steering committee for everything that we're going to do when you go out and contract for some of the services and stuff. And they will push the agenda forward, and at least half should be under 35. So you know what? The future of Wisconsin Dells is in the youth. I know our brand leadership team's over there going, well, I guess we're all out. But you know what? They're not, by the way. We just want to make sure that we have the youth of Wisconsin Dells, the next generation, part of this process. That will help you get unstuck from the 70s. And then nothing great was ever achieved without enthusiasm. That's my life's motto. And the motto of a true champion is, I love this, life should not be a journey to the grave with the intention of arriving safely in a pretty and well-preserved body, but rather to skid in, let me go back there, but rather to skid in broadside in a cloud of smoke, thoroughly used up, totally worn out, and loudly proclaiming, wow, what a ride. Did I nail that for you there, Romy? Yep, see? So if this is you, you let us know. You haven't seen it yet, but if you like it, you let us know. And by the way, we worked in Alpena, Michigan, a town of 10,000. And out of their brand leadership team, we ended up with Jeff Gray right there and Missy LaFave. Out of even this huge group here, those 2 are the ones that are really carrying the torch for the brand. Now, he's also really willing to work on this too, because he is married to her and she's telling him what to do. You know, this is our group from Edmonton, Alberta, and it's this district in this bigger city. And you know, we got Murray up here and Stephen up there. They are the 2 people that are just pushing this thing forward. There's always 1 or 2 people that are just pushing, and pushing. Kenora, Ontario, population of 5,000. You know, and up here you can see Barb right here, and you can see Rob up there, goofy guy, right? And they're just pushing this thing. It takes a couple of people. Then number 6 is the product development. So here you go. Here are some things that are on the list for Wisconsin Dells. A year-round public market. I'm going to show it to you. Year-round, not a farmer's market, a public market. It's part farmer's market, but I'll show you. A programmed public plaza. A programmed public plaza is one that's not just a public space, it's programmed with entertainment activities. And then ice in the winter, water in the summer in this plaza. Wouldn't that be cool? Active 250 days a year. And then, you know, work on parking structures, actual structures. Wouldn't it be cool if you could actually have people park out of the shade or out of the sun in the summer and out of the snow in the winter and actual structures? That way you can get more parking spaces and less square feet. Wouldn't that be cool? Sidewalk cafes, more of them. Make it easy. Encourage restaurants to do that. Improved facades, class up the joint. You know, a reinvented retail mix. And then street performers and artisans, not just on one corner, but all over downtown. Wouldn't it be great if we had amphitheater space overlooking the river? You've got a beautiful river trail that most people don't even know exists. And it's not monetized, which means how do you get people to spend money when they're walking it? And then more pedestrian-friendly downtown. It is a highway. This is kind of the district that we concentrate. So it's Broadway basically from Church Street all the way down to the bridge or the underpass. And it kind of includes this whole area. And these are some of the things we're going to show you. But that's kind of the area we concentrated on. And by the way, we do want to help the businesses that are back a block. And there's a lot of residential and stuff like that. But that is the core district that we're trying to work with. And number one on that list was a wayfinding system. Yes, you've had one designed. And quite frankly, we went and looked at it and we thought it was it even looked dated to us. So we thought the graphics in that wayfinding system could be updated. Because it looked like somebody came in and did your wayfinding system. They did a good job with it. But it looks like they tried to fit what was already here with kind of that retro look. And we're not so sure that's where you really want to be. But you know what? You've designed the system, it's still not up. And that is one thing you need, because you know what? Even here, the Crystal Grand, to most people, they'd go, where's that? Because you're off the Parkway. You know, and so wayfinding system should always fit the brand. It should always be celebratory, never more than 5 items on the sign. It includes pole banners. What could it look like? By the way, we want to count downtown the River Arts District. We want to bring up the culture level. So it's not so superficial and just t-shirt shops. And no offense to the t-shirt shops, but we need more than that. And so even your pole banners can be directional signs to help people find downtown. So if we're running signs along the Parkway, this will help us find that district. A lot of people come to Wisconsin Dells and don't even know you have a downtown. And then your downtown gateway or grand entry. You know, the challenge you have is when you come in, this is the way you're greeted for downtown if you're coming in from off the Parkway. And could that be something different? Could it be something more fun? And by the way, we're not running away from the Water Park Capital. That's still your brand. It's not in downtown, but we got to join the two at the hip. But whatever you do, painting that trestle, making it fun, making it artistic, and these are just initial concepts. But make a statement. You know, and then coming into downtown, you got everything is all concrete. It's not soft, it's not warm. You got these concrete bunkers here. Could all these be painted with cool art? Can you dress it up, make it look better so that's not how we're greeted? You need to make it what we call soft. And we call those softscapes, hardscapes, whatever. But can we take all this concrete and just colorize it, make it prettier, make it look nice? Make it fun, add some culture, add some depth. Can we take those pole banners, make them still colorful and really class it up? Make it vibrant. You're already working on these little signs here that say we're open. You know, make those even look nice. So it's about doing some of those things. Getting merchants to add blade signs. Blade signs are signs that are perpendicular to us. When we're walking up the sidewalk or driving up Broadway, we notice the signs that are pointing out to us. You know what? We're not driving by looking up to see what's painted on the facades, or not stepping out in the street to see what sign you have up there. We see blade signs. That's what all these are. By the way, it's really obvious. Chocolate, collectibles, trains, restaurant, they always sell they always put on there what they're selling before the name of the store. These are all blade signs. By the way, that's in Leavenworth, Washington, a Bavarian themed town. This is Nantucket. This is Carmel, California. The most successful towns anywhere have blade signs, and notice they're all consistent. They're all consistent in height and length. You know what? If Tanger Outlets can do blade signs, I'm sure your downtown can. because that's right here in the Dells. The next thing is seating in outdoor cafes. You know, by the way, all benches should always be at the facade facing out, not at the curb facing in. So that's a change we're also putting in there from what you have now. And every bench should be planted, have planters on both sides. So that's another suggestion or recommendation we're making is take all of those benches and get them from there out here because people like looking out, not in. This helps people open up car doors and things like that. And it helps soften the facades. It's why people put French porch swings out in front of their houses. It makes it seem welcoming. That's what benches do. And so that's a change that you're going to make. I mean, outdoor cafes, big time. This is in Walnut Creek, California, but you know, notice the blade signs, notice the beautification, and then sidewalk cafes. We want these everywhere. We want downtown to be a place that you can go hang out. You know, and they might not be out in the middle of the winter, but that's the future. You know what? We're moving to the European standard. We're eating later at night. We're shopping later at night. We want places to hang out. We want pedestrian experiences. So you need to do this kind of stuff. You know, I mean, this is great. This is right downtown. We got one table out there. Would you want to sit out there all by yourself? That should look like that. That's Ojai, California, a small town of 5,000. That's what you need to do. Then there's facade improvements, and granted, Tipper was not there, but this was, you know, we even thought, well, could we create some places where we could expand the sidewalk during the summer months and let them put outdoor dining? And then we thought, you know, what if on a block we just made this whole thing just nice, wide pedestrian sidewalks? Could we take a block and not have parking on that block? You have it in one or two. Could we add another block to it so that you can really widen your sidewalks? You have all these outdoor cafe spaces here, and you still get plenty of pedestrians. We want to make it there. And wouldn't it be cool if you had a buffer between the highway? That is a state highway. Wouldn't it be cool if we could create a landscape buffer between the highway, the Broadway, and your pedestrians and your traffic? Could we do this on a block just to create a showcase? Do something like this. By the way, I have heard people say in my years of working is, if you take away the parking from out in front of my store, you're going to kill my business. Guess what? Here's my response. Are you telling me your store's not worth walking a block for? Because it's not true. And so, you know what, over time, you know, and by the way, there's already rumors out there we're going to close off all the parking on Broadway. There's going to be no parking on Broadway. Wouldn't that be a cool goal to have 10 years from now? That it is so busy that people are willing to walk a block or two from parking and get in that pedestrian atmosphere downtown. Of course, we're not going to start that way. But could we add one block? And then over time, the busier it gets. You know what the first goal is? To bring people downtown consistently. And the more people we have downtown, the more need there is to widen sidewalks. That's how that would work. But wouldn't that be cool to do that? And then to bring downtown to life with magicians and musicians. And, you know, this is Cannon Beach, Oregon, population 2,500, very popular town. And notice the magician right there, he gets paid, they have a $10,000 a year budget, and they actually pay their street performers. He gets paid $35. He makes the rest of his money from tips, and he has to be out there for 4 hours, and he's out there every Friday, every Saturday during the summer months. For you, they should be out there, you should have entertainers and music out there 7 days a week during the peak season. You know, all of this kind of things bring downtown to life. This is another reason why you need wider sidewalks and outdoor cafes. You know, last summer I did see this gal right out there in downtown. She was kind of by herself. There's really no place for people to gather around and listen to her. But this would make that change if you make those changes. And we have a whole video. By the way, we have a video library. It's got 30 hours worth of videos on it. And in that video library, there's a video about how to bring downtown to life. And by the way, we're giving everybody in Wisconsin Dells can have access to that video for the next year. And they stream just like Netflix. So you can watch them at home, you can watch them at work, you might have chamber meetings, you might have VCB might put in luncheon meetings, but there's all kinds of videos to help you do some of this stuff. And then a year-round public plaza. So, with downtown, you know what happened? People lived in downtowns until World War II. Woolworth was downtown. Sears was downtown. JCPenney was downtown. Downtown was the heart and soul of every community. Remember, how many of you remember Petula Clark downtown? How many of you remember the song? Raise your hands. Go ahead. You raise your hands because you just dated yourself. That was 1964. But remember what it said. The lights are much brighter here. Let's go downtown. You know what? After World War II, people started moving to suburbs. That term didn't come into existence until the 50s. When people went out, the retail went with them. The first suburban mall happened in the 50s in Minnesota. And it's the beginning of the end for downtowns. Well, guess what? Downtowns are back more than ever before. People want downtowns. They want to stay downtowns in hotels. They want to live downtown. We want places to go after work on weekends, places to hang out. So what do we have to do first? Here's the bottom line. If we can bring enough people downtown 250 days a year, the retailers will follow. And they will be willing to pay more because there's more people there and bigger audience. And when retailers are willing to pay more, then property owners can charge more, and then maybe they would invest in their properties. Because a lot of your buildings have not changed since the 70s. They're run down, tired, and old. And they look it. So we got to bring people first, and retail and business will follow. And here's what I say. People are the heart of downtown. The plaza is the soul. You know, and what I said before, we're moving to the European standard. We're looking for third places. The first place is the place we live. It's our home. The second place is the place we work. And the third place is the place we go to hang out. And Starbucks built an entire brand around third places. That's what we want. I'll tell you one little story. This is Rapid City, South Dakota. They host 4 million visitors a year. But you know what I call them? The hole in the middle of the donut. Because those people come to Rapid City, they go stay in a hotel, they get up in the morning and they leave. They go to Mount Rushmore. They go to Crazy Horse Memorial. They go to Badlands National Park. They go to Custer State Park. They go to the historic town of Deadwood. They go to Sturgis, the largest motorcycle route in the world. They come back and they go right back in the hotel. Downtown was deader than a doornail. So I said, you need to do something. So we took this is right in the middle of downtown. This is a 60-space parking lot. And that's an old Sears building that pigeons were living in. I told them, I want you to take this 60-place parking lot, and I don't want you to even bother about replacing the parking. I want you to turn it into a 1-acre plaza. And that's it before, that's it now. There's that old Sears building right over there. This is it during the summer. Notice it's got a splash pad there. This place is called Main Street Square. And by the way, in the winter, that turns into an 8,000 square foot ice skating rink. So guess what? In the summer, that is active 120 days a year with water features, concerts. You can see the stage. There's a band right there on stage. They're just getting set up. And in the winter, this runs for 4 months. Guess what? The association that runs Main Street Square, makes $130,000 a year just renting ice skates. And they have to dole them out because it's so busy, it gets too crowded. And that's what it looks like. This is Main Street Square. It's programmed. It works. And you know what's really cool is every Monday they do movies on the square. You know what the average attendance is? 3,500. Somebody posted this. Movie night, Main Street Square, Rapid City, South Dakota. And look at what this person wrote. I grew up in Rapid City and it was never as cool as it is now. Within the 3 years that has been open, the average age of a person buying a new home in Rapid City dropped by 12 years because of a plaza. The youth were coming back. and starting businesses and everything. And look at what they said. So I went back just last summer and asked people what they thought of the plaza, because people fought it. And there will be people in Wisconsin Dells that's going to fight the plaza. And you know what some merchants said? Well, you're going to have that plaza. Everybody's going to be in the plaza. They won't be in my retail stores. Or people are coming to the plaza and they're going to tog up all the parking. I mean, there was all the reasons, all the complaints. So when I went back, they didn't remember who I was. I had Dan Seffner, that runs Main Street Square, made a list of the 14 businesses who gave him the most grief. And I went in and secret shopped all of them. I went into 14 merchants. And I would walk in and I'd make a face like I'm making right now. You know that plaza downtown? That plaza over there? They didn't remember who I was. You know that plaza there? Does that really help your business? You know, I've given them every opening. Every single one of them said that. Every single one. And look at this. There's no retail vacancies. There's a lower turnover ratio. They used to have about a 10% turnover every year, and now it's down to almost zero. It's like 1%. Businesses are now open later in the evening hours, and many of the businesses have broken sales records. They continue to break sales records. And then the average population is dropping, like I just told you. And then finally, it's now a great place for conferences, conventions, trade shows. Their conferences, conventions, trade shows almost doubled because they made downtown work. Shoulder seasons. And so it's nearly as big an attraction as Mount Rushmore in just 3 years. Wouldn't that be cool? And so, a true plaza is the central gathering place. It's a year-round activity center. It includes active water features. It is programmed with events and activities. It includes a stage and audience areas. It incorporates retail food. It needs to be monetized, just like you see in Italy. Every town is built around a piazza. And then finally, plazas are an investment. We have never seen one that did not return on the investment. There you go. After researching more than 100 of them, we did not find a single community that wasn't thrilled with the result. We'd like to put it right there. You know what I'm talking about? That's Oak Street, right downtown off of Broadway. We went so far as to say, could we have it even close off this little half block of Oak Street, right here? We still have easy access to our hotel properties right over here, right back behind there. We even thought, wouldn't it be cool if this was a restaurant and this was part of the plaza and these actually had outdoor cafes right here? This whole thing was a plaza right over to here. Yes, the arcade would go away. Yes, the ticket booth would probably go away. But wouldn't it be cool if this plaza stretched from this building all the way across here, all the way just this little plot, this little block? Wouldn't it be cool if these were restaurants that had all outdoor seating on the plaza? Wouldn't it be cool if you could do something like that? It needs to be right smack in the middle of downtown. It can't be 2 blocks away. It needs to be right there in the hub, the middle of downtown. And we still have access by streets getting back. So here's our parking for the hotels. This would, and you know what? And you still have access back here for staging events or for emergency vehicles or delivery vehicles. Wouldn't it be great if we could take that and turn it into that? What we've got here is a stage right here. And it could be covered. You might have a splash pad right here. By the way, these splash pads are all flush mounted so that you can shut them off and you can fill this full of tables and chairs. Or you can fill it full of chairs and have concerts. You could have a drop-down screen underneath this covering and you could show movies on the square. You know, and wouldn't it be cool if even during the winter months, this whole thing could be an ice skating rink? Wouldn't that be cool? Right downtown, a program plaza. And this is where that dining would spill out, right out here. You know, so we're talking about, wouldn't that be cool if all these little businesses, what if these were just a couple of cool restaurants in there? And we give them the plaza for all the outdoor dining. Once again, think Europe. That is the future. Cities everywhere are starting to do this. You need to get out of the 70s and start doing this kind of stuff. Wouldn't that be cool if we could do that? You know, you could have vendor booths here. You could have all kinds of activity going on there. You know, there's what your ice skating rink would be. Wouldn't that be cool if you had that many people out there? You could have, I mean, it could be year-round. You'd have people coming from Madison and everything just for the ice skating. How cool is that? You know, and that stage would be right here, so we'd actually be screening all the electrical stuff. So the stage would be basically right in this little area. So that's the idea. There's what it looks like. So here's Broadway. This is Oak Street. And this is the sidewalk still there and everything. And there's that plaza. You can see the water feature there. You can see this would be all be dining. So what's gone is the arcade. You know, here's the stage back there. Let me zoom in a little bit more. Yeah, is it going to let me do it? There we go. Wouldn't that be cool in the heart of Wisconsin Dells? An active, programmed, 250 days a year gathering place. And you know what? Even if it's for those 20,000 people that live within, or the 50,000 people that live within 20-mile radius, how cool is that? And I guarantee you they'll come here just for that. But we're not done yet. But wait, there's more. Sound like an infomercial, don't I? You know, even places like this, over at the museum, it should be programmed. There should be vendors. And I thought, man, where's the little coffee booth there? Or where's anything? All these places need to be programmed, not just pretty places. They need to be programmed. They need to be monetized. Because they're great opportunities that are just sitting there vacant. You could even take down the road. We saw this and we thought, man, this could be a cool little second plaza. Maybe we take this out. It's empty anyway. At least it was when I was here last. And maybe this could be a second little one. What if this was a little restaurant that had all outdoor seating there? Who knows? These are just wild ideas. And by the way, we did talk to the property owner of Oak Street there that owns a property to the right where the arcade is. You know, he's open to it, but his main deal was he's an out-of-towner. That's a problem you have. They don't really have a vested interest in the community. He said, buy me out, you can do whatever you want. You know, but you know, so sometimes change is good. I don't know. And this is all about raising the bar. You know what? I hate to say this. I'm picking on people on our own team about the signage, and you just get, you know what happens is, when you come into downtown Wisconsin Dells, you are assaulted. You are assaulted with T-shirt shops and signs. Tom's over there going, okay. But, you know, we're just blasted with this stuff. I mean, you know, and some of it is so, you know, remember, women make 80% of all, and they see some of these T-shirts are so off color. You know, you just go, I can't even believe they're allowed to put them out there, you know. And so, I mean, what you got to do is you got to change this. I mean, all of this stuff, we're just, it looks, when I show these pictures, people say, wow, when did you take that? It's last year, and they go, really? They think it's a throwback from the 70s. So these are all the things that have to change. You know, I'm not saying merchants have to change, but just the massive, you know, and the second you start doing this year round, you become a coupon destination. You know what you do is you attract the lowest income earners. And they deserve a place to go. I'm not throwing them out, but there's no reason why you can't raise the bar and attract a little. You know, a lot of times, you know, there's been complaints we heard about people and even merchants going out and smoking right outside their shops, and you know, and it's who you're attracting. And we're not trying to throw those people under the bus, but can we add to that a little more upscale? And that means you have to make some changes. You know, these outdoor cafes, there's no beautification here. Does it make you want to sit in those chairs? That's what we talk about, raising the bar. I mean, your architecture under the facades and everything is great. Can we get rid of some of this crappy stuff and then do newer, modern awnings? You know, some of your merchants do a great job. They work hard on the beautification, but then some don't. You know, this is great here. It needs to be programmed and brought to life. So in this plan, there's all kinds of things about facade improvements and those kinds of things. And then the other thing we want to add, this is the other big project besides the plaza, is a year-round public market. Year-round. And so we thought, if that plaza's right here, could we put that public market right here? I think Vision Quest, is Vision Quest right here? Wizard Quest, right here. And so we've got all these retail, and there's a little access right in here. And so we thought, could we put something back here? You've got this little lookout over the river back here. Right now it's a parking lot. Oh my gosh, it's worth much more than a parking lot. We thought, could this whole be a plaza area? Look at that plaza area. So you have this and this. Could we do something right here? We'd have a year-round market. And that market could be programmed because this is such a spectacular, it's worth more than 4 or 5 parking spots. It could be fabulous. So we thought, could we do something like this? Notice something here? There's an amphitheater right there. There's an amphitheater right there. Wouldn't this be cool if you had a 16,000 square foot public market? I'm going to show you more. This was all plaza that starts right off of Broadway and pulls you back right in here. This could be all outdoor vendors and events and things going on. Wouldn't that be cool? Wouldn't it be cool if you did that? If this became part of that plaza that just walked you up there, very pedestrian friendly. Wouldn't that be awesome? And by the way, in this, you could have all kinds of events. It could be a building like, whoa, this thing is getting ahead of me here. Let me go back. It's taken off on its own. Let me go back. Right here. Okay, I'll go to the next one. This here, all these doors, they all have glass in them. You could roll them all up, all the way around, or almost all the way around. One corner has public restrooms and storage and things. But most of this would all open up. So in the summer months, you could open the whole thing and be an open pavilion. But then you may have times of the year, like in March and April, where you may have every other garage door is up. Or maybe they're all down in the middle of the winter, so you can have it heated. It would be on an all-concrete slab. Wouldn't that be cool if you had a place like that? And inside would be flex space. So when there's no public market, you could clear it all out. You could host all kinds of things. You could have RV shows. You could have fishing and hunting shows. You could have job fairs in there. You could have so many different kinds of events in there. Wouldn't it be cool? It would look sort of like that. This is from the river if you were to look up and see it. Here's the amphitheater. So it might be right there. Or it could be like this. Here it is, this same place. You can see the boats down here in the dock, and here's that lookout. Couldn't look like that. So these are just some views that we did, and here you go. There's the rendering I wanted to show you. Where all this would open up. And there's where you would walk right in from Broadway, or you come down here. Wouldn't it be cool? Look at this event space right here. This whole thing would be a central gathering place, and it's year-round. And as an event center, look at the things you could host there. You could do a farmer's market in the summer. You could do a chainsaw carvers in there. I'm just going to go through this list of all these things that could be there. Outfitters, you name it, hook and bull, that's what we call fishing and hunting shows. RV and camping shows, you name it, boat shows, you got it, car, motorcycle shows, artisan shows, quilt guilds, potters, all kinds of stuff could be going on there. You could have public market when there's nothing. And by the way, this place would be open at least 4 days a week year-round. So this is not every Thursday. Eventually, we'd like to see it all year round. Wouldn't that be cool? Right in downtown Wisconsin Dells. Entertainment every day at lunch and dinner, bridal fairs. You can imagine what you would do. And there's what it would look like. Be the coolest thing ever. The top 2 revitalization things, I belong to the International Downtown Association of Main Street USA. The top 2 revitalization tactics in the United States are plazas and public markets. You'd have both. They're not big, they're not huge, but you know what? We like that intimate setting. That's what we think you should do. And that is the recommendation. And then doing those 2 amphitheaters. You've already got the sloped lawns right there. It would be easy to make those central gathering places with the river as a backdrop. One might hold 500 people, another one might hold 1,000. We're not talking about big. By the way, we're not trying to compete with the Crystal Grand either. But people can go grab lunch and they just go sit out there. And you might have entertainers, storytellers, you name it. And so this is where we redo this whole site, re-envision it. Yes, we have to work on, you can see the slope lawns there. It's just a natural setting. Yeah, we got to work on parking issues and stuff. But how cool could that be to have this kind of areas, these areas? And it would really, really showcase downtown Wisconsin Dells. And then, another idea we even threw out there is a rubber tire trolley. When I say trolley system, we're not talking about putting in tracks. And wouldn't it be cool if we could connect your attractions and your sports facilities to downtown? So it's not always a traffic jam downtown, that you would do these kind of trolleys. This is Gatlinburg, Tennessee. They have these little trolley stops, and that's what they do. They stop at all these places. And by the way, it gets funded by advertising on the inside. You could do that in these kinds of trolleys. These are all ways to help it fund itself. We'd like you to try that. Get a couple of these so that during the peak season, we can help route people from your attractions, downtown, sports facilities, and really create some kind of a transportation system that makes it easy for people to get to and from downtown. And then finally, wouldn't it be cool if you build that plaza area and you build that public market is to recruit outside events? I'm going to give you one example. This is in Solvang, California. It's on the Central California coast. And I better hurry because I'm running out of time. But I went there. I was doing an assessment. I secret shopped them like I did for you 10 years ago. And there was a car show going on. And I was walking around, and there was people everywhere. I mean, it was just packed because there was the classic car show. And I saw this on the front bumper of a car. It said, First Annual Solvang Wheels and Windmills Car Show. It's a Danish town. I found the organizer of the car show, and it said First Annual. And I said, why did you pick Solvang? I thought he'd say, well, because it's a popular tourist town. That's not what he said. He said, because their tourism, which is in part of their Chamber of Commerce sent us invitations and just invited us. I said, that's it? He said, yeah. They sent a one-page letter to every car club, every motorcycle club, every quilt guild, every pottery guild. They sent one out to every club and organization within a 100-mile radius, and they just invited us. And I said, but did they give you money? He goes, no. I said, what did they say they'd give you if you'd hold your car show there? They said they'd close off 2 blocks of their main street and that they would put up welcome signs. I said, that's it? And he said, yeah. And I said, well, who did all the marketing? He said, we did. Who staged it all? He says, we did everything. And I said, so how many people did you bring in? He said, 10,000. How many cars do you have? 180, almost 200 cars. And you brought in 10,000. When did it start? He says, we got here Thursday afternoon. We already had all of us vendors and everything. We already had pretty much a lot of the hotels full Thursday night. Then we ran all day Friday, all day Saturday, and we were done Sunday at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I said, so has it been good? He says, it's been great. I said, will you do it again? He says, yes, we've booked this weekend for the next 10 years. Can you imagine doing that in Wisconsin Dells? And if it's the shoulder season, you've got that public market. You can host things indoors. You could even take that plaza that I just showed you, cover the whole thing. So that if it rains in the winter or some shoulder seasons, you don't want your ice to get wet. I mean, there are ways to get around this to make it work. So one of our recommendations is to go get those databases of clubs and organizations and invite them in, because now you'll have a place for them, you can host them. You'll have 2 places. You'll have the plaza. You'll have that. And that's what this is about. And so this whole thing, then we've addressed even parking. We don't know where, we're looking for, if we bring people in from sports facilities, can we do parking on this side? Could these be structures? Do we put a structure here? We don't. So, by the way, sites have not been nailed down 100% yet on any of this stuff. We know you want to do a public market. We know we want to do a plaza. We have not nailed down exactly where things go. But actual parking structures give you more parking rather than just spreading out. Here's a little lot here, a little lot here, a little lot here, another lot over there. Go up, and you get people out of the snow and out of the rain and out of the sun. And you get more bang per square foot by doing that. Down the road, can we build a plaza down here? Have these bookends in downtown. Then finally, you write the brand promise. And by the way, there's a lot of recommendations. I just gave you the key ones. A brand is the promise. What is that promise you're telling people? And here it is: to reward visitors and locals with a culturally rich, vibrant, active, pedestrian-friendly downtown that becomes the gathering place, and particularly in the evening hours year-round. That's the brand promise. In order to deliver that, we got to make downtown a place that people will hang out at least 250 days a year. And you know what? That still leaves another 115 days a year that the merchants have to make it. And so what comes first? People, consistently. And so here's the mission: to attract more upscale clientele year-round with upmarket shops, eateries, and cultural experiences. The High Rock Cafe is on our leadership team. And you know what? You would think that they would say the last thing we want is more competition. You know what they're saying? The more competition we have, the more we're going to do and the more downtown's going to do. They get it. Most people don't. Make downtown Wisconsin Dells a showcase for the entire Midwest. There's no reason why your downtown can't be as powerful as Jackson Hole, Wyoming, or downtown Gatlinburg, which is now doing great, or other small towns that become destinations in themselves. I mean, look at Fish Creek up in Door County. You know how many people go up there? They're getting a more upscale clientele in Door County than you're getting. They're getting more upscale in Neenah, Wisconsin than you're getting. And so that's what you have to change. You have all that opportunity. Then you create the look and feel of the brand, which is the pole banners and things you saw. It needs to be simple, straightforward. And then you develop the action plan, which you've had. Branding. What is it we want downtown to be known for? What do we need to do to make it a draw? How do we tell the world? And it is a to-do list, and that's what you've got. That's what the cover of it looks like. But you know what the whole reason for doing this plan is? Because we got to get everybody on the same page, pulling in the same direction. And this is the typical Economic Development Express. Get that about right? It's really clipping along there, isn't it? You know, there's Chamber, Economic Development Committee, you know, tourism. I mean, you know what? If you guys can get behind this brand, you'll go from that to that. This can work. Then what you do is you make something happen, and that's where you're at right now. We're at stage number 10. And then we got to keep the energy high, and there will be naysayers. Well, that's too expensive. We can't afford it. Because a lot of things are public projects. Public markets are public projects. Plazas are public projects. But you know what? Every single town we've seen that have done those two things have seen their tax base go up by a third, double. And when the tax base goes up, you know what? That's more revenues to the city, revenues to the community, revenues to businesses. That's tax base. Forget all the reasons why something may not work. You only need to find one good reason why it will, and you cannot fold to the cavers. You know what cavers are? You ready? Citizens against virtually everything. And you probably have a few. And I love this. This is our brand leadership team. Here it is. You ready? A diamond is merely a lump of coal that did well under pressure. That's our motto. And so, then number 12, you tell the world, look at our fantastic downtown, and you'll turn it around in a heartbeat. You could do almost everything in this plan in 3 years. 2014 to 15 is the getting ready year. We got to raise money. We got to do architectural engineering. We got to work with property owners, because there's not a lot of public property downtown. And that is our goal right there. We want to see your tourism increase by 30%. And you may say, oh, we're 100% full in August. Fine. Let's work on September, October, November. And let's work on next March and April, May, other than spring breaks. Your downtown is at 20% of its potential. 20%. A lot of room for improvement. You know what? I'll never forget this. 10 years ago, I went to Romy and her board. I said, your website looks very corporate. It looks very much like a VCB. You need to think of Wisconsin Dells as you would think of a theme park. And I'm talking about Lake Delton and Wisconsin Dells. You need to think of the Dells as a theme park. And you have 100 attractions. downtown needs to be the downtown Disney. You go to downtown Disney, it's upmarket, it's beautiful. You will not see t-shirt shops everywhere, and it doesn't mean you can't have one or two or three. You will see outdoor dining. Go to downtown Disney. That's your model. And that's the way I want you to think of. And then revisit that plan every couple of months. It is a to-do list. By the way, the plan's only like 50 pages long. You don't need some big 300-page document. It's a to-do list. And there is to the very bright future of Wisconsin Dells River Arts District. That's what I've got for you. You okay with it? We'll take as much time as you want, but we'd like you, if you have any questions that you want to ask, there is a microphone over there. We don't mind. You can ask me the hard questions, and if you want, we can bring up the brand leadership team, and you can ask them questions, or maybe questions that I can't answer that I may be able to refer over to you. But if you have any questions, we invite them right now. You're all afraid to, this is being filmed. Is that keeping you away from the microphone? But, here's the other thing. If you don't have questions, our brand leadership team, would you guys stand? This is our brand leadership team. And you know what? This is volunteer work for them. Can you give them a hand? They've been working on this very hard. They will hang around. We will hang out up there. We'll hang around here. So anybody have any questions? Okay, we're going to get some people, so go ahead.
Roger, Eric Helland from the city of Wisconsin Dells. Can you go through the history of city development? I mean, we all went through the era of malls, pedestrian malls.
Yes.
And go through it and why those didn't work and why this is now the hot item and why it's working.
Yeah, good question. First of all, you know what? Even the traditional malls are starting to fade. The traditional indoor malls are fading. And the reason is couplefold. First of all, people want gathering places. Places like, there's a place, Walnut Creek, California. It's in the East Bay area. It has a pedestrian European-style mall. You know what? The United States is a baby country. We're a couple hundred years old. We built our culture around the automobile. For the first time in U.S. history, the millennials, the Generation Xers and Yers, they want out of their cars. For the first time in U.S. history, we want out of our cars in a pedestrian experience. We are finally growing up. It has worked in Europe for centuries. It's coming to the United States. It's a new culture. We want to be on foot. We want a pedestrian experience. We want outdoor cafes. We want music. We want live entertainment. That has changed everything. Here's the other thing, is that people want to be back in downtowns. It's a cultural change where we want those central gathering spots, those central gathering places. And so it's just a cultural change we're going through more than ever before. And so what happened? The old models don't work. And so I know it's painful for some people. But people, everybody says we don't want change, but it is the best thing that could happen to you. We are changing as a society. And downtowns are back. People want downtowns. And you know what else about downtowns? They don't want chains. The last thing we want downtown is Tanger Outlets. And yes, we'll go to Tanger Outlets for all our back-to-school shopping and those things. This is a whole different thing than they are, so it's not even competition for them. This is about, you know what the future of downtowns are? The future of downtowns are not where we go to buy socks, underwear, and hosiery. The future of downtowns is where we go after working on weekends. It's restaurants, it's dining, it's entertainment, and it's retail open in the evening hours. You know what? Your retail business will be better off opening at 11 in the morning and staying open until 8 or 9 o'clock at night. You know what? I don't know how late Tanger Outlets are open, but I can guess that they're open until at least 9 o'clock, 7 days a week year round. They get it, and downtown doesn't. By the way, you need everybody. You know what has to happen? the property owners need to put in their lease agreements that you will open at such and such an hour, you will stay open until such and such hour. At Tanger Outlets, I can guarantee you that if you have a lease in there and you're not open by 10:05, I'll bet you it's $1,000 for every 5 minutes you open late. That's the mentality that you need to start having in downtown. It starts with property owners. But that's the future of downtowns. It's where we go after working on weekends. It's where we go when we're done playing in the water parks and we're out on the river in the ducks and all the other things that we're doing here. That's the future of downtown. And it's a cultural shift that we're going through right now. And towns everywhere that are doing this are seeing huge. People want to live there. They want hotel developments or will do better there and everything because it's the place that we go to hang out. Okay, next question. I hope I answered that. That was a long answer, wasn't it?
Hi.
Hi.
I'd like to add another suggestion. I like the idea of the trolleys on rubber tires. Can we make them electric vehicles? No pollution. And also, you could put solar panels on the top of the central marketplace because we just attended the MREA Midwest Renewable Energy Association Fair, which is annually in June. And one speaker there said that solar panels are dropping in price so rapidly, it's incredible.
Yes.
And he said that in the last 3 years, 60% of the price has dropped. And he said, for pessimists, it will take 10 years for solar to really take over our electrical grid. And he said, for pessimists, 10 years, and for optimists, 5 years. And they're doing it in tiny towns. My husband and I just went to Europe, and the ancestral town that my great-grandfather came from, 3,000 population, they have a huge acreage of solar panels in that little place, and it's not even a developed town. So they're doing it all over. Germany is the leader, and I just really think that's great. We've been around, and my husband and I, and we have kids, and they go to the upscale places. There really is a very definite trend in that direction. And cheaper, cheaper, cheaper is not the way to make more money. Thanks.
You're right. Yeah, when you start competing on price, you start eroding your entire community. You shouldn't compete on price, you should compete on quality. Because I see people here this month, the busiest month of the year, dropping their prices. That is not a good sign. And it hurts everybody. And so that's number one. Number two, the trolley systems being electric is very difficult because they run all day long typically. However, we have seen them use natural gas. We've even seen hybrid. So you've even seen trolleys do hybrid now. And doing solar panels on the farmer's market would be absolutely fantastic. Absolutely. Matter of fact, they're even designed, even in the design that we showed you, could absolutely be solar panels on there. And you're absolutely right that they are dropping and dropping in price and it's becoming more and more sustainable. But absolutely, we think those are both great ideas that can be done. But yeah, that's terrific. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Good morning. My name is Melanie Tolmich Signs. I'm the founding director of Little Eagle Arts Foundation. We're an arts organization committed to helping new and emerging Native artists in the area. Our location is found 4.5 miles north of the Dells in Del Prairie Township. And so my question for you is, as you're soliciting for enthusiasm from the broader community, those of us who do not reside in Wisconsin Dells, do you want us? And if so, how?
And absolutely, because it adds so much cultural depth. You know, I can't remember. My favorite, Romy, you're going to have to help me out. The little shop that's just on Broadway, the artist store, Artistic Expressions. My favorite store in Wisconsin Dells. No offense to Kelly here, you know, my wife, that's her favorite store. And you know what? You know the one I'm talking about? It's a little bit north. We need, you know what? If you had 20 of those in your downtown and you see Native American art and all those kinds of things, fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. You know, if we had a dozen of those kinds of places in downtown, you'd have people coming here from Milwaukee just for those. You know what? If you had 30 restaurants downtown that were all nice, you'd have people come from Milwaukee just for your dining. Let's head out to the Dells tonight. They'll drive that 2 hours. And you know what? They'll probably come to a show here, and you know what? They're spending the night, and you know what? It's in October, it's in November, it's in February, it's in March. They're out here for Valentine's Day because you got a downtown that's got great shops. They'll come here for wedding anniversaries and stuff. When we talk about downtown as a place to celebrate the good things in life, we want those people to come here for those anniversaries, for all of those things, and absolutely would love to have you in downtown Wisconsin Dells. That's what we're talking about. But right now, a lot of artisans are saying, you know what, really, that's not really, it looks kind of kitschy, and I don't know if I want my gallery right there in the middle of all that stuff. Well, this is a thing that's going to take time. It takes 3 to 5 years to turn a downtown around. We can't just kick people out. And it doesn't mean we don't want every business downtown, but sometimes we have to make it look better. Sometimes we have to reorganize the business mix. And that's what we're talking about. But that would be an absolutely gold to have that in downtown Wisconsin because it's a destination shop. By the way, downtowns need anchor tenants. That means a business or a restaurant that people right now drive from Madison just to eat at High Rock. We need anchor tenants. They don't have to be big. If you had the best cinnamon rolls in Wisconsin, people are going to drive here from everywhere. They're going to pull off the freeway, and they're going to be in downtown. So what we're doing is we're not taking anything away from water parks. We're adding to it. And that's what downtown can do. Any other? Yes.
Yes, my name's Nicholas Garris. My
Hi, Nick.
family owns Mount Olympus Water and Theme Park, and we're the people with all the blue and white hotels.
Yes.
And
They
by the
look a
way-
lot better than they used to look.
Thank you. For everybody's, we are having individuals right now on hand. We're doing renderings like you have. They're beautiful renderings for the Strip. So we're going to redo our hotels in the future. But that's not why I came up here. For the last hour, Roger, and you know how much I love your thoughts and your speeches and your ideas. And they're great. I love what you've done. I think it's awesome. It's an important part of what we have to do here. I have one little problem, and it's a tiny one. For the last hour, I've been listening to you talk, and downtown has come out of your mouth maybe 1 million times. The Arts River District has maybe come out a couple times. I think the name is inappropriate. It should become Downtown Dells like it is. Keep it simple, stupid. Keep it short and simple. Whatever is more politically correct. So that's my view. I like simplicity, and it just seems to be more appropriate. Downtown Disney, Downtown Dells, Downtown Chicago. Everybody knows what downtown is. They know it's a destination just by the name. So I caution everybody and the committee to please keep that in mind.
Okay.
Thank
Great.
you.
Thanks, Nick.
Everything else is perfect as far as I'm concerned.
All right. So let me talk about that just for a second. We tell communities everywhere to give their downtown's name. Because when you say downtown, or you say Central Business District, it's a destination. It's a designation, not a destination. So the best downtowns, Bourbon Street, New Orleans, the French Quarter, New Orleans, Chicago, the Magnificent Mile, Chicago, Navy Pier. You call all these things that. And so everywhere you go, we always say, give your downtown a name so that it makes it a destination, not just a physical designation. But in marketing, you say, hey, it's Downtown Dells. Absolutely. Once you get there, this is the River Arts District portion of that downtown. So on signs, you're going to say Downtown Dells. And I mean, there's no problem. We're not trying to do one over the other, but that's a good subject to talk about. But typically, we like giving it a name because it says something about you. It makes it a destination, not a designation. And so that's good comments.
Car and sitting on along Broadway and watching all the tourists, and it was the most exciting thing in the world. And I guess I remember Bennett Studio, and I remember the Indians as they walked down the street in their beautiful headdresses. And I was Norwegian, and by gosh, I really enjoyed all of these flavors that we had downtown. And I think these are the real things. These are the things that, like you say, people come from all over. My Norwegian relatives came from Norway to see these beautiful Indian culture. And sad to say, we kind of let it go. We thought we had to have the big boxes. We had all this stuff outside of the Dells. The big boxes are okay, but boy, we have really something special. The river trip, the water parks are great, but my God, we've got the river. We've got something that nobody else has, and I really hope, and it's exciting to me, to see the ideas that you have for downtown. My gosh, we should bring it all back, and these cafes and these good restaurants and these real people again. All this damn t-shirt stuff is okay, but my gosh, it isn't what the Dells is. And I really applaud you, and I applaud you people here. We can make a difference. And I have to say, I'm a little bit Norwegian, and even the Norwegians had a flavor here. Thank you so much.
You know, you hit the nail on the head. You know what's been lost is any cultural depth. Your downtown, for the most part, is just devoid of culture. I mean, that's the way it appears to visitors, and that's the biggest challenge. So if you can bring that back, I mean, it'll make so much. Artisans in action, portable glass-blowing studios, you name it. Bring the culture back, and downtown will come back, and then new visitors will come in. What this is about doing is opening up another market for you and open up the rest of the year for you. And so I think it could be outstanding. So thank you very much. So, yes.
Hi, Roger. One comment, one question. The comment is if you have a chance before you leave, you might want to update your pictures on the former Splish Splash Beach Store location at 326 Broadway, which we've revitalized.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'll check it out today.
Good. The question is, we have a lot of structures in the downtown, a lot of buildings that have been obviously, your pictures show, ignored for 30, 40 years or more. How do you motivate property owners from point A to point B? What's your experience been in other communities where we've had this problem, particularly where you might have absentee ownership, people who do not live in the community, don't have a stake in the community on a day-to-day basis?
Okay. I'll give you one of my personal experiences. In the after I got done working in Whistler Resort, British Columbia, my job was to recruit investment into Whistler Resort. It was just a vision. I got a call from the town of Jackson, Wyoming, Jackson Hole. And remember, population 10,000 in the whole area, by the way. And they said, we need you to revitalize. They have a little square downtown. It's called Washington Square. Now it's called Public Square. And then wrapped around it were all these buildings. They want you to fix that. It was about like Broadway from Church down to the underpass. And they said, we need you to come and fix it. And they found their focus as an arts town, right? Which I mentioned before. Here's my job. And by the way, we actually have in the plan to get a real estate recruiter in here to work with property owners. So let me tell you, at the time in Jackson, Wyoming, they had a 30% vacancy rate. They had about 5% turnover every year. So every couple of years, 10%, every 10 years, it was all new. And they just could not keep them going. So my job was to turn downtown, I almost said Wisconsin Dells, turn downtown Jackson into an arts downtown. Focus on art. By the way, and so we made a list of all the property owners, and I went to them. I would fly to Los Angeles. I would go to Bozeman. I went to wherever the property owners, and I sat down with them. And here's my message to them. I said, I know right now you're getting about $12 a square foot per year, $1 per month. What I want you to do is when your lease expires with your current tenant, I don't want you to renew the lease. I want you to invest in your building so it would be suitable for a gallery. And we will recruit a gallery in there for you if you will do that. But here's the other thing. I know you're getting $12 a square foot per year now, $1 a month. I want you to lease it to them for $5. And they go, I know what you're thinking. They go, now excuse me, you want me to kick out my tenant who always pays his or her rent? You want me to put money in my building so I can lease it out to some unproven mom and pop gallery for half price? And I said, exactly. And 2/3 of them said, you could buy me out and do whatever you want. But we got 1/3 that knew where we were going. 1/3 said, we will do it. So what we did is that 1/3, we recruited a nice gallery in there. We actually had a person, that was my job, to physically recruit a new tenant in that place. The reason for the lower rent was this. Number one, if you had 3 galleries in downtown Wisconsin, let me put it, how many of you know where Manitowish Waters is? You know where it is, way up there? Okay. If I was to tell you that they have 3 galleries in Manitowish Waters, how many of you would make a special trip up there for it? Go ahead, raise your hands. All at once now. 1, 2, 3. Okay, now let me ask you this. What if they had 50? How many of you would go up there for it? We had, 3 times as many hands. So what we had to do in Jackson was $5 a rent the first year, then $7 the second year, then $8. By year 5, we'd be back up to your $12 a foot. See what I mean? What we want to do is keep them alive while we're building the critical mass. You could do this with dining, you could do it with art, you could do it with whatever. So 1/3 did it. To make a long story short, they're now getting $85 a square foot per year at 100% occupancy with a waiting list. So there you go, property owners. When you talk to property owners, it's never about do something good for the community. We want to make downtown great. It's always about cash. And every single town that we recruited those people in is seeing 10 times the return. So here's the deal. It takes patient money. It's going to take us 5 years to do this thing. And we need to be there. You need to be there as a city, as a community to help them. If you're going to ask a retailer to lose a business in there, then you have to help them get the right business in there. You have to do the recruitment. By the way, that 1/3 drove the other 2/3. What happened is the guy that owned the Farmers Insurance Agency in downtown said, oh my gosh, I'd make more money leasing this out to a gallery and I'll move over here. So what happened is the market from that 1/3 drove the other 2/3, and that's what happened. And that's what's going on in that's what happened in Jackson. That's what's going on in Gatlinburg and all these other places. So we need to get 1/3 of the property owners on the same page with us, orchestrate the business mix, and pretty soon your clientele will change. And then what happens is your retail starts to change. And so that is how you do that. Yeah. So I hope I answered your question.
You did. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Okay, any other questions? All right. Well, thank you. Oh, wait, we got one more. So. But this whole thing will take 3 to 5 years, I'm saying, to do this.
Towards the end of your presentation, you talked about using downtown Disney as
Yes.
a model, and the quality is great and the beautification is great, but would you want to get that uniform look, or would you want to utilize the individual creativity of our local businesses?
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, because afterwards I said, I probably shouldn't have used that, because first of all, downtown Disney has a lot of chains in it, and we don't want chains. We want it to be organic to you. You know what? If you had, I don't mind a Subway being downtown, but if it was full of Applebee's and everything else, it wouldn't be any different. And so it should be organic to you. It should not be orchestrated like Disney. So I'm really glad you brought that up. It needs to be fun. I mean, I love the High Rock for what it is, the way they laid it out. It's a nice, intimate setting. I mean, last time I was here, I had lunch at Max. I thought that was great with all the... So I think you want it to be organic. I don't think you want it to be overly orchestrated and programmed. I think that's what's cool about the Dells. I do think that you can I think, the big deal is I see signage downtown that's fallen off the buildings, cheesy plastic banners plastered everywhere. I just think that you just do a poor job in doing a good presentation. And so the first impression is one that's just low end. And it doesn't have to be. And you do have some great shops, but they're kind of hidden by all the assault that we get of signage and banners and stuff. But I will say that it should be organic to you. And so I just use Downtown Disney as the power of downtown, not to make it look like that. Although they do a good job of beautification, which I think is good. All the planters, the edges of the planters are all, and I used to teach for Disney Institute. So all the edges of planters are seating areas. You know, they're all kind of curved. And so there's some things you could model. But I'm not saying that should be your retail business mix at all. I love to have in the small shops, the cool shops, things that are organic to the Dells. And that's what is really going to make you.
Could you talk about fundraising and what communities that you've seen has really worked for them? Because we do have a small base to work with. And how do we get the fundraising that we need to create this vision?
So, you know what? Let me just put the numbers out there for you. To do every single thing in this plan would cost about $38 million to do. Every single thing. All of it. Here's the point. And some of you are going, oh my gosh, we're a town of 3,000 people. We're an area of 6,000 people total. Here's the point. That is cheaper than a single performing arts center like this. That is cheaper than anything else you could do, a convention center downtown, something big. It is remember, this is a whole bunch of projects. We're talking about beautification. We're talking about public markets. We're talking about plazas. We're talking about trolley system. We're talking about, and there was a whole bunch more stuff. And so it is, for the dollar, it is the biggest bang you could ever get for your buck, fundraising. There are many ways you do it. Part of it's going to come from grants. There are transportation grants to help do wayfinding signage. There are lots of grants. There are low-interest loans, government loans out there. There's revitalization loans. HUD, Housing and Urban Development, has a thing called Section 108 loans, which are blighted areas or blighted parts or buildings, stuff that need to come around. So I think this will be a combination of, who knows? And by the way, that's what we're working on right now. Could it be, you know what? Could it be a hotel tax? And I'll tell you something about that right there, because I know there are people going, if I'm a visitor and you give me a great downtown to go to, I'd be happy to pay another $1 a night. It's that simple. So maybe that's part of it. Creating a downtown business improvement district, those are things, but that's really the downtown business improvement district. We don't see downtown paying for this whole thing. It's going to be a part, public-private partnership. This is the age of public-private partnerships. We don't see the city running the public market. Probably a nonprofit would run that. And those are all the details we're working out right now. And by the way, this would all be phased. We're not saying, well, we need to go cut a check for that kind of money right now. This is all going to be developed over years. And we hope we can do it within 3 to 5 years, because we don't want it to take so long that it kind of loses momentum. We want people to see substantive changes. But, you know, where there's a will, there's a way. And we've seen towns spend way more than that. And if you think about what it costs to build a water park or anything these days, that's small change. But just think of, so that's one option. So we're looking at many different options. I don't know if there's anything I want to add to that or not from our group down here, but we're looking at all those different options. So this is not going to be handouts. But I will tell you one thing, and I was the biggest proponent, said, you know what, if you put a little 0.5% onto a hotel tax, I'd be thrilled to pay it as a person who stays here if you give me a wayfinding system so I can find your downtown, or find the Crystal Palace, or find some of these things. You know what? I'd be happy to pay $1 more a night if you give me a great downtown that's open after 6 o'clock and some great shops. And give me a parking garage. See what I mean? Remember, this is everything. I'd be thrilled to do it. And that's the bottom line. And so I think those are some, we're looking at all those different things now. So it'll be a combination of things. Great question. Yes?
Good morning. I just have a question regarding like traffic flow. If anyone's
You can go ahead and bend that down to you because I'm having a hard time hearing you.
regarding traffic flow,
Yes.
has anyone thought about that? Would there be a way to get into the parking garage so that
Yes.
there's not so much backed up all the way up the
Yes.
strip?
And traffic flow was a big thing that we thought about. For instance, if we're coming from the sports facilities, when people come down Broadway, we always want to make sure they can turn right to parking. So we're trying to figure out, is there a place on that side of Broadway where we could do parking? And when you come into parking, you know where, is it Lacrosse Street right now? Could we do a parking structure? When you first come into town, could we do a parking structure? There's a lot of parking right there. And so we always want to make sure parking is right turns whenever you can, because the second you start doing left turns, that's where you start getting congestion. Another thing that's in this plan is addressing things like sidewalks, making them, you know what, I'll never forget when I was here last August and seeing a family running across Broadway with their strollers because they were afraid they were going to get hit. That is not a pleasant experience. So doing more sidewalks that are thematic or obvious. I mean, down the road, and I'm saying way down the road, wouldn't it be cool if Broadway was 2 lanes, 1 lane each direction, and there were right turns off of it so we don't have to have center turn lanes and we can widen the sidewalks out and make it more intimate. I know it's a state highway, and by the way, that's not on our plate in the near term. But think about it, the more busy we make it, the more need there is to widen the sidewalks, narrow the streets, build parking garages. So what comes first is giving reasons for people to come downtown. Public market, amphitheater, plaza areas that are programmed. People are going to come downtown, and now we need to address more parking or parking structures, or widening the sidewalks, or narrowing the streets, or whatever it is. But yes, with parking, we always want to make sure that people can turn right. By the way, you have signs downtown now that say parking straight, left, or right. No. On your wayfinding signage, you give them one choice. Turn right, parking. Otherwise, people are going to sit there and go, we have to make a decision, which way do we go? And meanwhile, they're stopped. You got to make it easy. And those are things that'll happen when you fix your wayfinding system. So, great.
Roger, Ed Pawsik.
He's our host.
J. Stevens Productions. I'm stoked about the live entertainment thing. Can you touch maybe on what Gatlinburg does for whatever bands, high quality family entertainment?
Yeah, you bet. You know, there's things like, I'll give you a couple examples. Jonesboro, Tennessee, the storytelling capital of the world. Even in Gatlinburg, they're doing it now. They have storytellers on the street corners. And they're all in character telling stories. It's all about cultural depth. And so they will tell stories. And then they have, you will find musicians. And by the way, all musicians in downtown are all unamplified, which means we're not going to have a lot of drums. We're not going to have guitar amps out there. But you saw pictures that I showed of people playing the cello, the violin, the guitar. I mean, you need to bring downtown to life. Street musicians, street artisans, a guy playing a hammered dulcimer. And hammered dulcimer does not mean he's drunk. It's actually the instrument. But doing those kinds of things downtown, the artisans in action. We've even seen glass blowers downtown. They have these cool little studio booths. But boy, you need to bring it to life. Magicians, musicians, artisans, storytellers. And you know what, downtown, it should happen probably 40 weekends of the year. There should be entertainment downtown. And we're talking about like Thursday evenings, Friday evenings, Saturdays, Sundays until early afternoon. All of these kinds of things activate downtown. And you know what? At first, you may have to actually pay them to do it. But in places like Gatlinburg, in places like Asheville, North Carolina, a fantastic example, they don't have to pay them anymore because there's so many people downtown, they're making so much money off of tips that you know what they're doing now in Asheville? They're actually jurying, they actually have to jury the street performers because there's so many of them. Right now you don't have that luxury, but down the road, wouldn't it be cool if so many people come here? Downtown is so busy that these street musicians say, I want to go downtown Asheville or downtown Wisconsin Dells. And they're going to go there because there's people there, they're making money on tips, and they're bringing life. And that's what this is about. So, have I got you all exhausted? Are you excited? Thank you so much for coming out this morning. Thank you very, very much. Romy?
Thank you, Roger. Hello. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Roger. Those of you who were fortunate enough to see Roger 10 years ago, also see him again last April when he was here for the downtown workshop, know how enthusiastic he is and how he always leaves us with great ideas and hopefully has left all of you very inspired. Roger has agreed to stick around for a little while if you'd like to ask additional questions, maybe a question you didn't want to pose publicly. The brand leadership team is also here, so if you have questions for municipal leaders, downtown business owners, their take on this, they're happy to answer those as well. I did fail to, I neglected to give you the URL for the website that we have created where you will find the collateral piece that you've received today. We'll also have this video presentation linked to it once we receive it from a production company. It's where we'll put any of the updates as we make progress, as we work with your municipalities to make changes that will get us closer to our goal. So we encourage you to take a look at that. The URL is DellsAreaDevelopment.com. DellsAreaDevelopment.com. And we will, we're just going to get it up today. It should be ready by noon. We'll have a newsletter sign up so that if you are, again, interested in just hearing what's been going on, where we are on certain things, you can sign up for that, and we'll be sure to get it out for you. So with that, again, thank you all so very much for coming today. We hope that we've enlightened you as to some of the projects that we're talking about. I know it's been a long time coming, and we appreciate your patience. So thanks, and have a great day.